Only a few months ago, precisely on the 20th sad anniversary of 9/11, which of course refers to the 11th of November of the Gregorian year 2001, followed by the 11th of November of the Gregorian year 2021, expressing my sadness, I invited my fellow global citizens to consider the problem which compels so many young people to become so violent towards their fellow global citizens, even their own countrymen and women. On that particular occasion, which of course means on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, precisely on September the 11th, 2021, I raised the question upon my own mind and perhaps on the minds of my fellow global citizens. What really encourages the young people to become so violent towards others? The very grave news of another atrocity in the state of Texas, of the United States of America, taking place only yesterday, our time, which means on the 24th of May of the current year, does not merely cause my heart to become very sad, but it also becomes inevitable for my heart not to be torn apart. Yes, 19 innocent children, along with 2 teachers, were killed in a school classroom by an assailant of 18 years of age, even yesterday. True be it that those who are advocating that gun laws ought to be restricted may be upon the right path. Restricting gun laws may reduce the problem to some extent. But I begin to wonder, and most certainly ponder in my heart, whether that is the true solution to the existing so serious problem. Being an educationist, I grieve the loss of my fellow global educationists who lost their lives yesterday, as well as during the past months and years, even while being in classrooms, hoping to serve in the best interests of their pupils. But we as educationists ought to ask ourselves, what really drives the young people to commit such vile and vicious offenses, even against the most innocent of the world? even the babies and children who are considered to be the purest of all. A question which has to be answered not merely by my own humble self, but also by my fellow global citizens, who are much wiser than I am, or I happen to be. We need to consider the true interests of the children as well as the youths in order to ensure that they do not fall into the wrong trap. We need to ask ourselves, and indeed those young people, those children and youths, quite frankly, with all due patience, with all due understanding, why they are being misled to commit such heinous crimes. Evil may be reflected by many films or movies shot in various places. And no doubt films and movies play certain roles on the mind of human beings. A fact which I tried to underline in the past, and I do it even today. The freedom of speech ought to be respected by all of us who believe in humanity. At the same time, it becomes our inevitable, indispensable duty to ensure that that freedom of speech is not abused, and most certainly that particular right of ours does not lead others to fall into the wrong traps, even in being motivated to commit serious offenses, even against the most innocent, the babies and children of the world. We need to spend not merely our time, but our energy too, in order to ascertain what goes on the minds of those young people who become so violent, to commit such offenses which are condemned by most people of the world. But it is easy to criticize, far more difficult to find the proper solutions. But criticisms do not help, and they most certainly do not solve the problems. The problems can be solved with deeper solutions, which ought to be found by all of us, including my fellow global educationists and my most humble self, to which I remain committed while inviting others to come forward and help me and help us, both my fellow global educationists and myself, to find such solutions, to change the minds of the young people, returning To the films and movies, I venture to add that many of such films and movies are answerable for misleading various individuals, even today. Too many movies, indeed, as we call also films, and various other entertaining activities often are aimed to raise the minds of others to certain effects, notwithstanding the fact or the facts that such minds are often misled to criminal activities committed by individuals, perhaps even by this 18-year-old assailant who killed 19 young children and 2 teachers only yesterday. Perhaps similar situations misled other young people and others to commit various other types of offenses, including the ones which were committed in the recent past. Even in the same country, in the United States of America, against the non-white community in a certain state only a few days earlier. We need to find the true solution to such problems which exist on the minds of the young people. Our film industries have no right, or perhaps no rights in plural, to mislead others to fall into the wrong traps. Restricting of gun laws may be effective, but restricting of freedom of speech, which may be abused by others, including the film industries and other broadcasting media, ought to be restricted in global interests. At least, that is my most humble view and my most respectful submission. Before all of you, most beloved and respected viewers who have been watching this live telecasting of mine, or intend to do so, even the recording of the same at their convenience. Indeed, this is my most tragic message, which I crave leave to extend with my heartfelt consolation and indeed condolence to all those who are mourning the dead even at this very moment. Thank you. Good night from my country. While I pray that God the Almighty will be kind enough to protect the innocent in future.